Welcome to Yell, Fight, Sooie, college football from three friendly-ish rivals.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the next edition, the late January edition after a 1-week hiatus of Yell, Fight, Sooie. So we've got the Yeller, Yeller himself is here. Hey, Yell guy.
Is that a comment on the color of my hair?
Mr. A&M, Yell guy. Mr. Fight, Jim's got the fists up. He's looking for people. He's got that ready just to Texas fight him, right, Jim?
We've got apparently 2 outs, so we're good.
Two down. Let's get you. This sounds like it'd be a good baseball show name. And then I'm the Sooie of the Yell Fight Sooie with the Woo Pig Razorbacks running around here. So guys, we are we're in a neat little spot here. Football's just wrapping up. Signing days are done. Georgia blew TCU out of the freaking building. So we were ending football. We're in the middle of basketball. And baseball is just about to get wound up too. And if you're a fan or an alumni of either of these three schools, the baseball teams are pretty good. So let's talk football. Is there anything, Jim, let's start with you over there in Texas. The quietest of the three teams off season. Seriously.
Scott, I sit here with a glass half full and a glass half empty. Because on the one hand, Arch Manning has maintained his spot as the top recruit when the reevaluation. He's apparently the top possible NIL earner of this class. On the other hand, he can't hold on to his student ID. So I don't know what to think. I don't know where I'm at. I'm all over the place. They apparently found his ID. Although if you're the student who found his ID, wouldn't you have kept it? Like I would have kept it.
Yeah. Oh, that's a no-brainer, right? That's some cheap Photoshop just dying to happen. Right.
It really is. Or sell it on eBay 10 years ago. Andy, you look.
This is just a random thought that I've had about Arch, and I hope he does well. And nothing about his football skill, but I've been listening for 2 years about how the Cooper household, the Manning team has really been focused on where Arch is going to go and where they're going to be able to set him up for success best and all this kind of stuff. And I'm wondering the reality of how much Peyton or Eli give a shit about where their nephew plays or how successful, beyond caring about the kid.
Right.
How much involvement do they show up for a football game? Sure. Are they going to be burning up Sark's phone and try to get them to run Arch's program one way or the other? I just don't think that's a thing, but somehow that's become part of the narrative. Now, Cooper Manning is supposedly the most aggressive and most competitive of all the Manning brothers. And Archie, God love him, if he still has all his mental facilities, because that boy took a beating for like 15 years in the NFL. He played for the Saints for like 12 years where they didn't have an offensive line. And I don't mean they didn't have good players. They just didn't field an offensive line.
They put five cardboard cutouts back there and let him run around as much as he could.
I just wonder how much of that is still a narrative right now, that somehow that Peyton and Eli are pulling the strings.
I've not heard. It's weird. Of course, weirdly enough, you have more insight into the sort of behind the scenes of Longhorn country than I do. My sense is, I think Eli and Peyton care, and as much as if there's another Manning that's relevant, their brand that they're building also gets a boost of relevancy. I cannot imagine them being overly involved. I can't imagine two guys that were successful NFL quarterbacks becoming micromanagers all of a sudden. But
yeah, and as many broad ventures as they have together. I mean, and people need to also, if people haven't seen, there's the ESPN 30 for 30 on the Mannings or the SC, whatever it was. But Cooper was a heck of a receiver. Also, Cooper was an exceptionally good athlete whose career was cut short by injury. So there's probably a ton of fire in Cooper Manning's belly, especially for his son. That wouldn't shock me as much. But for Peyton and Eli to have a heavy hand in it, I don't see that. I don't see how or why.
Isn't it weird though that we're talking about athletes that are about to become pro? I mean, they still have parents calling coaches for them. Like, doesn't that feel like that should be a specifically like junior high situation?
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
think about that. Yeah.
Rhett Bomar, Ryan Leaf. I mean, this has been going on for a while.
I know, it just shocks me still.
Well, and it's not just this sport too. You have the Todd Marinovich. You have parents that burn guys out. You see it in so many sports. If you go watch, Jim, you and I have talked about this from watching some of these independent league baseball games in the summers whenever they were bringing in high school kids for some of these little collegiate leagues. There's a different feel when there's that high school kid or that kid just about to go to his first year of college. Mommy and daddy are really still involved and screaming at each other in the stands. You don't see that after they've been in college for a year. Those parents kind of chill out. But it seems like when people are making that transition, that there tends to be a lot of mamas and daddies that get their voices heard.
Yeah.
So Andy, have you come off the ledge in College Station? You've got Bobby Petrino, you've got Jimbo Fisher, you've essentially got a coaching staff that automatically qualifies for AARP across the board. But how's everything feeling in A&M land?
I mean, I don't know that the coaching staff outside of Bobby Petrino is all that dramatically old. Jimbo Fisher's 7 years younger than Nick Saban, and he's still hanging around there. Look, I'm on Bobby Petrino watch. It's been 21 days since we hired him and 21 days since he's kept his pants on. So that's a win for all of us. And I will continue to monitor those days as long as he's employed. We may get a
monitoring Bobby Petrino's pants for us. We appreciate that.
Absolutely. No news is good news. The transfer portal is closed. Thank God. I know you're in love with that as well in Arkansas. So the bleeding has stopped somewhat. And the good news, and I think the thing that the national media is not talking about, and certainly the people who have been trying to detract from the A&M football team, it was a shit season. Everybody knows it's a shit season. There's no way to color it in a different way. But the exodus that was talked about, I think it ended up being 27 or 28 players. If you count everybody that went into the portal, and I think 3 of those had already medically retired from the team and decided they wanted to go try somewhere else. Another 1 or 2 of those weren't with the team anymore, but that A&M was the last. It wasn't quite as bad. It still wasn't great, but what we lost was depth. We didn't lose anybody off of our start. 19 of our 22 starters are coming back from that LSU game. That was the last game of the year. So we didn't lose starters. 4 of the guys that transferred out had been dismissed from the school and weren't going to be able to come back regardless of how much we wanted them back. So there were a couple of losses we experienced in there, but it wasn't the death knell that some people are trying to pretend that it is. Does the depth loss hurt? 100%. You don't want to lose depth, especially when you play in the SEC, because you're an injury away from needing to play your third string guys sometimes. But I don't think things are nearly as bad as they're being made out to be. And I expect, a rebound season to come, but a whole spring of Connor Wegman as the starting quarterback, and an offense with Bobby Petrino, who has something to prove.
Totally.
In big boy football. I think that's a pretty good combination. Again, provided we get to 321 days of Bobby Petrino keeping his pants on, I think we're in a good place from a football program.
Yeah, we'll see how many receivers and quarterbacks he's made irate by the end of the first week of spring camp. That should be interesting, because
at least right now Connor Wegman loves him to the point that he's not going to play baseball this spring.
He'll make him really good, but he may not make him a lot of friends. I'll say on the Arkansas front, of course, Kendall Briles took the offensive coordinator job at TCU. A lot of people.
How do you feel about that, Scott? I
mean,
mean,
so behind the scenes, so there's a lot of stuff that's come out from behind the scenes on this. He flirted with Mississippi State. He's flirted with other teams in the past, and he's got a raise. So after flirting with Mississippi State, he went and asked for a raise. They said absolutely, because look, Arkansas's offensive numbers have increased every year. They've gotten better. So, but after the Mississippi State debacle, he puts out on Twitter, yeah, we're going to run it back. He, at KJ Jefferson, our quarterback, ties all of that in together. We're going to do it again next year, blah, blah, all this hype. And then suddenly he's back in the office going, hey, TCU's calling me. Do you guys want to up your offer to me a little bit more? And Sam Pittman and Hunter Yurachek, the head coach and athletic director, respectively, according to all reports, said, no, we're tired of this. You've come back to the well one too many times. They thought he was leaving for Mississippi State already, so Sam Pittman had an OC lined up, and that OC, who we did sign, is Dan Enos, who was the offensive coordinator at Arkansas under Brett Bielema, who Sam Pittman was the offensive line coach for. So they have a long history together. And Dan Enos, by all accounts, is the person that made Brandon Allen, who will be suited up as Joe Burrow's backup this weekend. He's the guy that made Brandon Allen increase his ability. Well, whatever, he upped his draft stock, basically. So there's a lot of thought here in Arkansas that Dan Enos is a quiet quarterback whisperer. We've seen what he's done before. He could do amazing things with KJ Jefferson. We don't have a problem with Kendall Browse leaving because it's a really good guy that we got. And I think the offensive style, the more pro style that Dan Enos would prefer to run, suits Sam Pittman's mentality a little bit more. So it should be interesting. We've got the Petrino offense in College Station. We've got this here. Jim, quick question, and then we're off of this. We'll go to something else. But you're looking at a situation next year where you got Quentin Ewers, you got Arch Manning. In the past, teams would have looked at this and said, wow, we've got two young, awesome quarterbacks. There's going to be a great competition. And if one gets injured, we've got the other guy there. But now in the transfer portal,
my sense is that part of the reason why Arch Manning chose Texas was because of not playing his freshman year. I think from everything that we've heard, and again, Andy somehow knows more than I do about this stuff, but everything that I've heard is that they want him to have the opportunity to redshirt and to basically get a good step forward. I think that question could come into play if Quinn Ewers is not drafted after next year. And I guess that will depend on, I guess if he's not good enough to get drafted, then he's probably not good enough to lose his starting job to Arch Manning. But Andy, I don't know, you somehow know more about this than I do.
I don't know that I know more, but I do know that private school football in Louisiana is not at the same level as even private school football in Texas, which is behind private school football just about everywhere else in the country. So Arch Manning is not exactly playing the beasts from Louisiana day in, day out as the quarterback at, oh God, I lost the school for just a second, the small private school that he plays for in New Orleans. So the step up to college football, the step up to Big 12 football, much less the SEC in 1 or 2 years, that's a giant leap for him. Arch Manning may have all the talent in the world, but he has not ever played at the speed he's going to have to play at. He is not ready to play college football yet. He may have all the talent in the world. He may have all the DNA profile set up for him. But if your fans are calling for him to start at any point this season, they are silly. It's silly season in Austin if that happens. And I assume the first time Quinn Ewers throws an interception, you're going to start hearing it.
Oh, of course. Yeah, we talked about, I mean, the most popular guy is the backup quarterback. Plus, it's if you're the highly ranked backup quarterback, get out of here.
100%. That name recognition will carry. All right, let's slide off of football, kind of like what everybody else is doing. And we have the weekend coming up with the Big 12 SEC Challenge in basketball. So Texas is going to be on the court at the other UT in Knoxville. Too much orange. Do not adjust your TV set. They both wear these colors of orange. It'll be okay. Andy and A&M don't get to play along because Vanderbilt is coming, because there's too many teams in the SEC as compared to how many teams are in the Big 12, and Arkansas gets Baylor. So Jim will be pulling for Arkansas this weekend as well. Arkansas's fallen out of the standings, trying to get things back together, fighting injuries. A&M, Andy, from a basketball standpoint, Texas A&M is, when you guys can remember your jerseys, you're playing some great games, and you're not ranked, but you're one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the SEC, which is a strong conference. What's the thought? How's Buzz doing?
The reason we're not ranked is because it takes a while for Buzz Williams, basically the team to gel. He's a big leadership guy and a big team guy, and there's a lot of lessons he's trying to teach. And so I'm not trying to compare it to, Gene Hackman. It's not Hoosiers by any means, but there's a lot of, we're going to do things regardless of the result of the game until you guys get it. And once SEC games started rolling around, they were getting it to the point of, I think we're 6-1 right now, and probably should have beaten Kentucky. Came really close to beating them in Rupp. Beat Auburn, broke their 28 game home winning streak Wednesday night, which was the longest in the country at that point, and playing really well right now. And without really having a superstar type program, because right, wrong, or indifferent, Buzz Williams doesn't recruit superstar type guys. He likes to recruit 3 and low 4 stars that want to work hard. And that's what he builds off of. And it's a team that, if you buy into the A&M ethos, that's the kind of team they're going to get behind. We've got 11 more games in SEC play. If we win 8 of those, 7 of those, we're in the tournament. Everything's good. And frankly, at this point, we need to be in the tournament because we haven't made it yet in Buzz's tenure. So this is a kind of a make or break year for Mr. Williams.
It certainly looks like you're headed in the right direction, and the ghost of Shelby Metcalf is happy with what he's doing. I think that's
Shelby. Miss Shelby. Shelby was
Shelby
great.
Metcalf. Jim.
Yeah.
There's an interesting situation happening in Texas. You guys have this great ball team. Then your coach has to be let go. What an interesting dynamic going on in Texas to have this top 10 basketball team, but there's been so many changes. It looks like it may have gelled that team together.
Yeah.
And you've been there recently.
Yeah. I heard the story and I really wanted to get down and check it out for myself and really take a look at what I can't even get through it. Look, I had free tickets. It turns out actually they were courtside. It was on that courtside. Now I figured out it was like, I guess it wasn't courtside. We were a row behind, like it was not the chairs, but then we were in the things.
The one row behind Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, it was neat. It was fun. Everybody knows I'm not your basketball guy. Many of my students said those tickets were wasted on me. I agree. I don't know what to tell you. But I will say this. Those were some large men playing basketball at a pretty high level from what I can tell. The biggest thing, my biggest takeaway from that game, because again, I'm not your basketball guy, is Andy, did you ever, when you matriculated on the 40, did you ever make it to the Irwin Center for a basketball game?
For my brief time that I attended the University of Texas, that was when Lance Blanks, Travis Mays, or Blanks, Mays, and Wright were playing. And so that was a big deal because they made the NCAA tournament for the first time since Abe Lemon was the coach. The drag was shut down when they had their little run that year. So that was back in the Irwin Center, though. So it wasn't the new bless the mood or whatever the fuck McConaughey says.
When I went
to sober anymore,
because I've famously been to like 4 basketball games in my life. I did go to 3 at the Irwin Center, and I will say this: it felt like in this new place with the way it's built, with the students on top of the court.
Yeah,
it felt like a basketball school, and I don't know. It made me. It really got me thinking that Texas needs a new baseball stadium to match the energy that comes from DKR, and now the energy coming from the Moody Center. It felt like a basketball school. I don't know how long this run can keep going. I don't know how much of basketball is X's and O's or Jimmy's and Joe's. I think it will be very interesting because I know that there's rumor of Nick Calipari, and I don't know that I don't know if that fits a school like Texas, but we'll see.
Well, with the troubles he's having at Kentucky too, he might be looking for greener grounds. But the environment, the arena environment. I mean, it was popping, it was hopping, it was everything you could ask for.
Yeah, I mean, it was different, and it was very cool how into it was. I mean, because you got to understand, like with the way the Irwin Center was set up when I went to school there, students were up in the top. And so it was season ticket holders down there on the bottom, and they didn't go. So you would have empty, loud up top. And this was really just a much more energetic environment, to the point that I had a good time. Did I stay to the end? No. Did I have to Google who won the next day? Yes. But, now
that you mention it, I want to say the couple of games that I went to, sometime in the middle of the second half, they would let the people from the second level come down to the first level Basically for TV, but we are only allowed to sit behind one basket.
Yeah,
Bunch it together to make it
it's
look
definitely feels different. And they've upped the whole thing. When you walk up, it's modern, it's lit well. There's like a burnt orange light to the whole thing. I mean, you start to feel it as you walk up, and so that it was fun. It was and hopefully that, for as much as I'm not a fan of basketball necessarily, hopefully it does kind of turn it into something that people continue to enjoy.
People need something to do between football and baseball, right? You got to have something. Might as well do a basketball. It's not like UT's.
That's why Naismith nailed that peach basket up to the board.
Exactly. Exactly. No, I think it's really interesting also if we look back upon both sports seasons in all three of our schools, expectations that happen at the beginning of a year, right? Versus how does it actually play out, right? Sports is the ultimate and the original reality TV. So many big hopes for A&M in the football season that didn't meet. Texas, low expectations, had the best year of all three. Arkansas didn't meet expectations. Then you look basketball, Arkansas's fighting injuries and not playing all that well. Texas is overcoming adversity with losing coach, team still gelled together, still performing at that high level. And then A&M, who didn't have that many expectations on them, are really playing great ball. It's just an oversight there from everything, or an overview statement, but it's kind of weird how it all plays out. Andy, any final thoughts before we get off of basketball? Because we're not gonna stay here long.
We are not your basketball show.
No, we can check back in on basketball in March. That seems fine.
It looks good to me. And then Go Hogs beat Baylor. Okay, so now let's talk baseball. College baseball's coming up. We're less than 3 weeks away before things get rolling. These guys are practicing in snowfall in Northwest Arkansas. They are
here.
Not there, in Northwest Arkansas, where it snows. And then in the bright, sunshiny, balmy mid 50s and mid 60s degree weather down there where you guys are. So as we're looking at the baseball season, Jim, what's your thoughts on your Texas Long? You had a great season last year. Expectations are lower this year because you lost so many guys.
Yeah. I'll be honest. Like at first, the ego bristled at Texas not being ranked, and then I just sort of like, I know what the recruiting class looks like. I know the talent coming in, but national writers don't necessarily. And I can understand if you look at the Hispanic Titanic leaving, guys like that, you're going to take a step backward. I somehow still think we come out and win the Big 12. I believe now that we have I'm a very big fan of the head coach, and I think now there's a momentum going to the program, but I'm excited to see it. I want to hopefully try to get out to A&M this year, though, because I want to see that ballpark. But at first I was like sort of irritated about not being ranked, and then I thought about it for about 3 seconds and completely get it. And, I can see them being ranked after the first 2 or 3 weeks, but.
And I think this is the year where we play you guys one game up in Arlington. I think for one of those
tournament things.
Early February, 35 degrees outside, but that's not in Round Rock as of last year. Now that they'll be inside the giant Arlington Costco, or whatever the hell it is there with its aluminum roof. Andy, A&M, you superseded all expectations last year with
number 5 in the country right now.
Yeah, expectations are big down on the old College Station farm. What are you thinking?
There's a bunch of good happening. Transfer class went well, recruiting class went well, held on to guys we needed to hold on to. And everybody who stayed is going to get a year better. That's the hope. So you avoid injury. Schlossenagel has his team pointed in the right direction. So I think, the things that I could bitch about now is that our non-conference schedule is crappy like it is every year, because we're opening with the powerhouse Seattle University and then following that up with 3 against Portland, that powerhouse. And we do.
I don't know why it's funny.
And then I'm sorry.
Maine or Oregon?
then we warm up for the SEC schedule by playing 3 against Northern Kentucky. So non-conference is not great, but we do play in the Shriner Children's College Classic in Minute Maid Park for the first time in about 3 years.
I hate to interrupt, but I'm going to. Guys, if you live in Houston, get out to this event. It's incredible what they're doing for Shriners Hospital. It's a really great early season college baseball environment, and A&M will have it rocking just like Texas does. It'll get out if you can.
And not only that, but it's going to be good baseball because you've got number 16 Louisville there. You've got 24 Tech. Rice is there. A&M number 5 right now is going to be there. So it's going to be a bunch of good teams too. So it's not, just throwing in Baylor and hoping that they make a showing. But no, I hate to set expectations. The expectation is, yes, you want to make the College World Series and let whatever happens at that point. But the SEC is going to be so dramatically tough. LSU is the number 1 team in the country, and they are loaded. Tennessee is the number 2 team in the country, and they are maybe better than they were last year. Ole Miss is number 4. I'm rolling down my schedule right now. Auburn is unranked but good. Missouri is unranked, maybe the weakest team, but still competitive. Arkansas is number 8. Florida is number 7. Alabama is number 20.
If you look at the D1 baseball rankings, 7 SEC
top 25,
top 10, or top 10, and then from the Baseball America, 7 of the top 11 teams in Baseball America are from the SEC. So you're absolutely right. It is a loaded field.
Yeah. So it's going to be a bloodbath, but it's going to be great baseball. And I mean, we're opening our SEC schedule with LSU in College Station at Bluebell Park. So that's going to be a fantastic series. And I wish that Bill Byrne had the foresight to build our stadium bigger when he had the chance so people could actually get tickets. But I'll be seeing something like Incarnate Word or maybe the Fighting Lance Berkman's against Houston Christian one of these days. That's the things I can get tickets to.
Yeah.
Well, I will say also to people, if you haven't been out to watch a college baseball game in a few years, college baseball is improving. As we know, the Major League Baseball draft has reduced its number of rounds. There's more kids than ever, especially through the multiplication of the summer leagues that are happening. More kids getting seen, more kids going to college, getting an education, and playing baseball rather than choosing the minor league route. And it's from that, Jim, right, that Texas was loaded last year and lost guys, and now you're having to rebuild. But if you're going to have to rebuild in any sport, baseball's a great one to do it because you've got the early. Nobody even looks at what you really did in February while everybody's getting warmed up, literally. Because to Andy's point, the schedules are lighter. You play somebody for one game. Anybody can win one game in college baseball. So the hope still springs eternal there in Austin. Yeah.
Andy, you want to go first? You were going to say something.
I'm sorry, just to tag on to that too. One of the criticisms of college baseball is the Tuesday night game and how meaningless it has been in the past. Especially if you're in one of the 3 schools that we're representing here. The Tuesday night games are not gimmies because every program that we play from a Tuesday night perspective is a solid program. And I'm talking about Lamar, Tarleton State, Dallas Baptist, Houston, Rice. I'm just rolling down my schedule again. Texas State. Those are all teams that have made the NCAAs in the past 5 years, that can recruit well, that draw kids. All those games are hard-fought games. And yeah, A&M should be favored to win those games, but nobody goes undefeated in baseball. It's baseball, that's not right? A thing to think. It's baseball. And so you're going to see an entertaining product every time you go out to the ballpark.
And what I think has me hopeful for Texas is there is new talent and leftover talent on that pitching staff. And we all know that if your pitching staff gets rolling, your offense has time to find itself. I mean, we watched a team win the World Series last year doing that. So, yeah. I'm just excited for it to be back.
That cold, right? Especially when it's that cold in February, and it does make it for pitchers.
Just excited for it to be back.
Yeah, same here. Arkansas, not that many replacements, and Dave Van Horn has gone on record saying this is the deepest and most talented pitching staff he's ever had.
Yeah, number 8 in the country, by the way.
Yeah, so we're 8-1 poll and 11th in the other. Early in the year, lots of hope for Arkansas. I think a lot of balls will be flying out of Baum Stadium. Guys, any last parting shots before we get out of here? Anything on your mind you want to share before we wrap it up?
I still don't like basketball. I mean, I just don't get it. At one point, there was apparently a bad call, and I yelled, "What's going on?" And then I leaned over, going, "No, really, like what's going on? I have no idea."
The only thing that if we ever have to play this episode out in your biographical TV movie that will
Yeah.
you one day, Will Ferrell has to play you, because that would be gold. What's going on? No, really. Guys, what's going on?
I feel like if Texas somehow wins the national championship in basketball, I'm going to be like the John Travolta meme where I just walk in and like look around and don't have any idea what's going on.
Love it.
But I will say this, one thing that was cool is that the women's volleyball team, national champions, came out with the trophy at halftime, and that was really badass. And so did the swim team. So I love the fact that, as you both have seen it on your own schools, I love that they take the time to recognize the other programs on campus. I love that.
Yeah, and I know that was really painful for you to have to sit there and look at 6 foot tall blondes accept awards while dressed nicely while you're that close to the court.
I couldn't focus because Texas Mom was out there.
They don't wear their volleyball uniforms accepting trophies, though.
Well, no, but
like I said, Scott,
attractive, dressed up lady. I mean,
Texas Palm was there. That's where I was focused.
It is the thing I missed when I transferred.
I miss your hockey jersey today, Andy. I thought it would make.
Mine's on the way.
Is it? So we got all three.
Yeah,
okay.
we're gonna have to schedule. I will say that February 17th should be a fantastic day, because not only does A&M open against the powerhouse Seattle University in baseball, but also pitchers and catchers report for the Astros on that day. So baseball is back in just a short amount of time. And college baseball also puts me in a weird position right now, because I have to low-key root for the University of Texas, because David Pierce was my high school coach, St. Pius alumni. He was class of 1984. 81. So we'll keep an eye on them and root for them for all but about one game on their
right.
Well, very nice. I will close it out by saying the Arkansas men's club hockey team is ranked 3rd in the nation after a successful weekend at Miami of Ohio. Go to those Ice Hogs. Keep going, and maybe this is the year we win the ACHA Division III championship. Listen, this has been Yell Fight Sooie. We're at the end of January. Andy's still yelling over Texas A&M. He put the yell in it. Jim put the fight into it. I put a Sooie into it. I don't even know what that means.
I don't either. I don't want to know.
Guys, as always, thoroughly enjoyable talking to you guys. I hope you take care, and I hope y'all tune in next time for Yell Fight Sooie.
Yell Fight Sooie is part of the Let's Get To network. Yell Fight Sooie is produced by Twitchy Dolphin Media.